Hey everyone, today I want to talk about accessibility testing using Playwright. This is something many teams still ignore, but it has a huge impact on real users. What is accessibility? Accessibility means your application works for everyone, including people with disabilities. Some people use screen readers, for example, to read the screens aloud, and some people don't use mouse. They rely on only keyboard for interacting with websites. And even some people are colorblind and cannot read text if colors are bad. So, and even some people have hearing problems. So this might end up losing users for your website, and you lose the money, and you can even face legal issues in some countries when your website does not meet the accessibility requirements. So it is very important to make sure your application is good and it is not blocking the users with disabilities. But the nice thing is that Playwright already gives us strong accessibility support, and with a small setup we can automate many important checks. To use Playwright for accessibility checking, you need to first install this Axe core library, and the command is npm install -d at playwright/test and at axe core. So when you run this npm install, it will install the necessary library for accessibility checking, and then I will show you a demo script that does the basic accessibility test. And you can see here the installation is going on here, and there are some warnings, and it is still happening. The installation is done now, and you see added 2 packages, and it says all these details. So we are now ready to use the library in our test to do the accessibility validation. So here I have the demo script, and here it says here we have to import this Axe builder library. From the library you have to insert this import this Axe builder, and once you have that, you can simply go to the page where you want to do the accessibility check. And this is my test. First it goes to the site, and then it runs the accessibility test. So it's as simple as creating a new instance of the Axe builder for the page that you are going to check, and calling the .analyze method. So it analyzes everything, and you can even log the results on the console to see if there are any violations. And finally, you can even pass or fail the test based on your expectations. You can expect that there are no violations. So you can check that the accessibility report has violations, no violations. Here you can see we are comparing it with the empty array, and that's all. This simple test is powerful, but it still is an automated test, and it scans the entire page and reports any accessibility violations. So we can even run the test right now and see what happens. So you basically run like any other test. Let's see the results. So here I have in my other screen the report. So it says the expected received equal to, so it has a lot of, we were expecting the array to be empty. In other words, the violations, there should not be any accessibility violation, but it found out many violations. And it gives a failure summary, and what is the impact of this missing accessibility feature for this element, and it says moderate impact, and then it goes by one object at a time. And it also explains, it gives you the help URL where you can go and see what this error actually means. And you can see the all page content should be contained by landmarks. So your developers or yourself can look into it and create a bug report, and if that fits the actual case that you're looking for. So it also tells you how to fix the problem. So that is a fantastic way. So Playwright has an excellent Playwright, or this website has an excellent documentation, and the Playwright result actually, the Axe library actually has this nice feature that will tell you the help URL. So all we did was insert this one line after we install this Axe Builder tool, and we call this analyze, and then it gave us a nice report, and we can even verify and ensure that there are no accessibility violations in the report. So this is quite handy if you want to do basic checks. So this is very useful if you want to do a basic checks. This will even find any missing labels, incorrect ARIA attributes, color contrast issues, and heading structure problems. These are the few examples. But accessibility validation is not just about running an automated scan once. One important practice is to use the accessible roles when interacting with elements. So when you use selectors, for example, you should not use CSS or XPath. For example, here, this is how you should use. You should use the get by role. So this accomplishes two things. First of all, get by role is Playwright's most powerful and reliable way to identify an element, and we are using the name of the button here, for example, which checks another thing where the accessibility accessibility standards say that a button should have a name. So we are doing two things at the same time. So we are making our script robust by using the ARIA rule, which is the one you can Google it and say what is ARIA rule. So that's one thing. You can do it. A simple Google search will help you learn what is ARIA. And so if this selector fails, it means that the element is not accessible. So we are checking the accessibility indirectly when we use the get by role. So this confirms that the input has a visible label. For example, when you have an email address, you can say that the text box has a label. The input has a label, name, email address. So the users can see what that text box actually is meant for in the web page. Without this name, some users don't know what is the text box. What should I enter there? Where should I put my phone number or my name or my address? So this is an indirect way to check the accessibility. So this is another good practice. Without this, many users will struggle, as I mentioned before. And another thing is some users they have problems using mouse, and that is another critical part of accessibility. So since many users entirely rely on the keyboard, so for example, this script, make sure that each time we press the tab button, it goes to the appropriate logical order. For example, your web page might have a form where for example when I hit the tab button, it's going to focus on the first name, and then when I hit the tab button again, it should move on to the next field, last name, and then to the email address, home address, and so on. So we can make sure that the tab follows the logical order, and you can also check that where the focus is when the user is using the web page. For example, here the focused element is here I have this. If users cannot see where the focus is, they cannot interact on the page properly. So this script actually makes sure that the focused element is not null. And also, I mentioned before that some users may be colorblind, or they may have difficulty reading a web page if it doesn't have proper color contrast. So in that case, you can use this line of code, which is simple new Axe builder of the page you are checking, and you can add this rule called color contrast, and then ask the Axe builder to analyze the color contrast of the page. So this checks whether the text and the background colors meet accessibility standards. And another important thing is the page structure. Page structure also matters. The screen readers, for example, people who have difficulty reading, use an audio screen reader which reads the text on the screen. So in that case, the page page structure becomes critically important. So you can check the page structure. For example, there should be a main menu and there should be a navigation menu. So we are making sure that the page is structured properly and it's not a collection of divs. So over time, accessibility can accidentally get worse as features change. As your application is developed, as more and more code gets merged, accessibility checks are very important because there might be gaps in the accessibility that might be introduced surprisingly. So that's why accessibility regression checks are very useful. Just like we have automated test for functional regression testing, we need to have accessibility test regression suite that does the checks. So that test might eventually end up with a code like this. So it will analyze all the checks and then it checks that the violations are not there, or you have any other violations that are not critical. You can put any number here. So this prevents new accessibility issues from being introduced whenever a new code is merged. So this regression testing for accessibility is as important as functional testing. And I want to quickly show you an example of a page that looks fine visually but is actually broken. This is not the actual page, but I'm going to show you an HTML of the page. For example, let's say this is an HTML of a page where it has the email placeholder and there is an input where you can enter the email, and then there is a button submit to submit the form. So this is not that fancy, but you can see this looks like a small HTML code, but this has a lot of accessibility problems. First of all, there is no label for the input email address. So and the submit action is a div. The submit is supposed to be a button, and the keyboard users cannot activate it, and screen readers do not understand it. But so that's why when we run the same Playwright accessibility test on this page, it will fail immediately. So how to fix this properly is in the accessibility report itself. It will give you the what fixed, just like we saw in the error report previously. It will tell you what is the problem. So after fixing the accessibility problem, this is how our new HTML looks like. So we have nothing fancy changed here, but the page now is more accessible. You can see here that the label has been introduced for the input, so users know what this input is for, so they can understand, oh, this is an input for email address. So it is more accessible for people with disabilities. And then you can see the button. Previously it had a div tag for the submit button, but it now has this button tag, HTML tag. So when you rerun the test with this new HTML, the test will definitely pass. So this will confirm that the page works not just functionally but also visually and semantically. So the important takeaway is accessibility bugs are invisible, but they are very real. With Playwright, accessibility testing becomes part of your normal automation, not an afterthought. So automation will not catch everything, but it catches a lot, and catching issues early makes a real difference for users. That's how you build inclusive applications using Playwright. Thank you for watching, and if you like this video, please subscribe, like and share, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.